G'day everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel, and today we're going to be going through my round 2 AFL tips and predictions for 2023. However, before we do get right into these, we'll be going through my tips for round 1 as well as my big calls to see how many I got right. Do I avoid getting the punishment done? So it was a pretty difficult round to tip, I do believe. However, I feel like I did okay. I got 6 out of 9, which for a round like this, for round 1 in particular, I never start off that well. I'm definitely going to take it. Our first game was a draw between Richmond and Carlton. Got that one, well, not necessarily correct, but they give you their tip if you get a draw, so everyone got that one right. And I was really happy that I got this one right, because most people went for the Cats. I decided to go the Pies, and the Pies got a really good win. North getting the Eagles done, so I got the first 3 tips right. Then the Lions in just couldn't get the job done. Port Adelaide provided all the goods, and yeah, really good upset for them. Melbourne comfortably beating the Dogs. Pretty annoyed that I backed in the Suns. I just felt like they could have sparked something, but they weren't able to, so it's a poor loss. And this was another poor loss from the Crows. Should have won this game against the Giants. It was looking good early. They were up by 31, and they choked the bed. And then the last 2 games, I went the Essendon Bombers. A lot of people I knew went the Hawks as well. And then the Saints obviously getting up against the Dockers. We know that no one tipped the Saints in that one, so I got one up over a lot of other people in tipping. And as a result, I'm wearing my Saints stuff. So yeah, those are my tips for round 1, and then we can go through my big calls as well to see exactly how well they went. So for Richmond v Carlton, I said there'd be 11 or more goals combined in any quarter. I must have picked the wrong game for this one because it was a low-scoring affair, and the closest I got to that was 7 goals combined. Collingwood v Geelong, I predicted Nicky Dacos to have a really good game, and he did. But I said he'd have 30 or more touches and 2 or more goals. He had 35 touches, but didn't get the goals. In North v West Coast, I said there would be 10 or more behinds combined than goals, and there were only 1 more behind combined. For Port v Brisbane, I said that Jack Gunston would have a good day at the office and kick 5. He only kicked 2, so he wasn't really cited that much in that game. Now for Melbourne v Western Bulldogs, I just had a look at this. I thought this was wrong the whole time, but I did say that Melbourne would score 6 or more consecutive goals at any stage of the game, and they did in the second quarter, so put a tick onto that one. I'm pretty happy about that. Now the next one I got certainly incorrect. I said the Suns would win after trailing at 3/4 time. Whilst they were trailing at 3/4 time, they certainly didn't win. They played a really poor game of footy. For Giants v Adelaide, I said that the Giants would start early, but then the Crows would come back and win, and would be up as much as 24 points for Giants. And it was completely the opposite of that. The Crows were the ones up early, and the Giants were the ones that made the comeback. So got that one incorrect. And then in the second last game, I said that there'd be any team goalless in the first quarter, but obviously that didn't happen either. So that means I've only got the one as of so far. The last game, it doesn't really matter. Although I did say there'd be 20 or less goals scored combined, which I got correct. However, that means I do have to do a punishment for the first round of the 2023 season. I think we're going to have to give it a go at AFL for this round with the 89 likes. Remember, if you like the punishment comment, then give it that one a like. We have 89 likes, and the comment says, go to Coles and wear a princess dress while screaming, I love fairies. My goodness gracious me. I can't guarantee you what certain day this will happen because I've obviously got a busy schedule, but I don't know where to get a bloody princess dress from, so I don't know. If anyone watching this has one, DM me on Instagram because that will have to get done at some stage, hopefully next coming week. Alrighty, and quickly also, I want to address my tipping competition. A lot of people probably don't realize that there is a new one, and that the old one that they're in isn't the one that we're actually talking about. So I guess this is just so people are aware. This is the new link. Let's try and get 500, 600 members by the end of round 2. But yeah, the old one, get rid of it. Let's have a look to see how people went in round 1 in the tipping. And we didn't get anyone getting a perfect score, but the Banana Kid, Gabe AFL Ball, and Matt are all scoring a total score of 8. So Banana Kid and a couple other people doing pretty well. I see Cooper Gresh also with a pretty good score of 7. And where am I in the comp? We've only got the 333 members, but I think we can spike that up quite a bit more. Alright, let's head right into the tips for round 2 here. And I'll tell you what, it's a pretty difficult round to tip. I have looked ahead a little bit. In the first game of the round, we've got Carlton taking on the Cats. I think this game I might stream, so stay on the lookout for this one. But yeah, this one's going to be a pretty interesting game of footy. The Blues last week, obviously getting the draw against the Tigers. A little bit of a disappointing way to end the game for them, but at the same time, I guess they're pretty content with the result. I'm not sure how Blues fans are feeling after that, because I wouldn't necessarily say it was the greatest game, like skill-wise and just performance-wise from both sides. I think they were, yes, certainly finding it difficult to score goals and, find the targets inside 50 for the Blues. And I guess that you could argue they'd be happy with the result, but also at the end of the day, like, they could have certainly won that game in the position that they were for sure. So bit of an interesting one for the Blues. And the Cats, well, yeah, they'd be kicking themselves a little bit there in that one. They'd be a little bit disappointed with how they finished the game in the last quarter, but at the same time, they certainly were pretty impressive for the first 3 quarters. They tore Collingwood a new one at times, although in saying that, in a way, you could say that they were actually still lucky to be in the game through their really, really good accuracy. And then that last quarter, the Collingwood just ran over the top of them. Injuries did not help for sure for the Cats. Obviously, Tom Stewart out for a month. And the Koning was out for a little bit. He still ran out the entire game. Carlton's certainly capable of winning. The Cats could start 0-2. But I just think when you put both of these sides together and compare them based on what team's just better overall, you got to lean on the Cats. The Cats won the flag last year. I think they're going to be a bit hungry after that last week. Bounce back a little bit. Obviously capable of still scoring. They just ended up losing. Carlton need to fix up their scoring a little bit after last week. And I just think it's going to be one of those games where Geelong get off to a hot start and Carlton are just sort of chasing a little bit. So I'm going to go the Cats to win this game by 19 points. And a big call for this game will be that Carlton do not hit the lead at any stage of the game. The Cats are in front all game. We head to the next game on the Friday night, and this is probably the pick of the bunch when we talk about games that are going to be difficult to decide. I just do not know who to pick in this one. It's going to be a really good game of footy. We got Brisbane take on Melbourne Friday night at the Gabba. I really don't know. The Lions looked really, really lost in that one. They just, all of my hopes for them leading into the season have almost vanished for them to win the flag. I don't know. I just didn't like how they played after halftime, particularly. They recorded the second lowest disposal count from any side since 2013. So that's just a bit of an indictment of how they played last week. They were just terrible. And on the flip side of things, the D's were the opposite of that. They were able to get the footy through the middle of the ground, win the clearances, just doing all the basics right. Cozzy Pickett kicking 4, obviously suspended now, but just cruised to a pretty comfortable 50-point win against the Dogs. I didn't really have to do too much. I didn't think. I was at the game and they just looked way too classy for their opposition. They're, in my opinion, almost the premiership favourites right now. And they're coming up against the Lions outfit who want to be titled the premiership favourites themselves. It's at the Gabba though, so it leads me to believe we could see a Brisbane win. But last time these two sides played at the Gabba, we all know what happened. The Lions just didn't show up at all. The D's got a very, very comfortable win. I don't think it's going to happen again though. The Lions are going to want a response. They're going to obviously need a response, and I think they'll get a response. Screw it. The D's have, they deserve my tip. If this is any other side, I tip the Lions, but because it's the D's, they're looking really red hot. We're going to go the D's to win it by 5 points in a really, really good game of footy. With my big call on this game that there'll be 8 or more lead changes throughout the match. So we take a look now at the Saturday games, and these games still continue to be really, really exciting prospects. The Pies take on the Power at the MCG, 1:45 PM. This is going to be a really, really good game of footy, I reckon. A bit of an underrated clash at a 1:45 PM time slot. These two sides were arguably the two most impressive sides on the weekend. The Pies knocking off the red-hot Cats after winning 16 in a row. And the Power knocking off the red-hot Lions, but not just knocking them off, demolishing them. After half-time, they, I think, outscored them by 70 points. Their new recruits were really, really good for them, the Power. Junior Rioli, Horn Francis, arguably a BOG performance. But obviously for the Pies, they had players such as DeGoey proving pivotal. Somewhat of a difficult one to tip, but since it is at the MCG, and I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I can't remember the last time the Power actually got up at the MCG. They're not a great side away from home, particularly at the G. They haven't been recently, that's for sure. So for this one, I feel like you just got to lean towards the side that you can convince a little bit more, and I think I can trust the Pies a little bit more at home, and I'm going to go the Pies to win it by 22 points. Big call, both teams combined for 205 or more points. We head to the next game here, and this one is another one that could go really either way. Adelaide take on Richmond at the Adelaide Oval. Now this is a bit of an interesting one because the Crows, they would be pretty disappointed with how they went about it last week. They started like a house on fire in the first half. They were up by as much as 31 points and quite frankly should have been up by more with the amount of shots that they had. Players such as Isaac Rankin kicking 2 goals 5 and could have put the game to bed early on for everyone's tips. It would have been nice, but let the Giants get back into the game, and I'm not too sure if it had something to do with how hot it was. It was really, really hot, the conditions there. Whereas the Tigers, they also played off in somewhat of a disappointing game for their likings. They probably could have won that game for sure against the Blues. I don't think either side were all too flashy in that draw. I feel like a draw is honestly the most deserving result. Something tells me the Tigers are going to have more of a response than the Crows. They're a better side on paper, the Tigers. I think the Tigers, I don't know, they get somewhat of a comfortable win in this one. I just have a feeling, even though the Crows are certainly capable, and I'm rating them this season, I think the Tigers get this one done fairly comfortably, and I'm going to go the Tigers to win it by 33 points. With my big call, Darcy Fogarty kicks at least a third of all of Adelaide's goals. Now, speaking of games that I'm continuing to be excited about, the next one at Marvel Stadium on the 7:25 PM time slot, we've got the Western Bulldogs taking on St Kilda. Obviously, the Dogs last week were really disappointing against the D's. Obviously, they had LiamJames going out early in the game, so the defence was shot once again. Rory Lobb was useless, and he's not playing now this week, so it's probably not that much of a loss anymore. And their forward line just weren't able to function very well. It just was a disappointing game from the Dogs. They were beaten in all aspects of the ground. And you look at the flip side, whilst they didn't really have much going for them, the Dogs, in terms of, commitment and all that. Whereas the Saints, well, it was the opposite for them. They provided all the effort. They were just awesome all around the ground for 4 quarters, running all throughout the game, and they just were able to knock off the Dockers in a game no one really saw them winning. They had 14 injuries, 8 of their best 22, no forward line. It was a makeshift forward line. Caminiti and Filippo, 2 first gamers, and the rest was smalls. It was difficult to watch. I do feel like the Dogs' defense in this game you'll get a lot of numbers. So if you've got them for fantasy or Supercoach, I think put a couple Dogs defenders in your team. At the same time, against the Saints, they always seem to match up pretty well and seem to get a fairly dominating result against us. Whilst we could get a Bulldogs response, I'm just not too sure what's going to happen in this game, because I think under Ross Lyon, we're going to be more committed, more persistent within games, and regardless of the list that we have, I feel like we'll certainly, be more in this game, and we won't get blown away if we do lose. And our defense has held up really, really well, only letting Freo score like 52. So I think it's going to be a difficult game for both sides to score. It might be another low-scoring affair, possibly. That's what you're going to probably expect when we've got no forward line. Since the Saints got up last week and had to back us in, why wouldn't I back us in this game? I think against the Dogs, if anything, it should be an easier matchup than the Dockers. I think I'll rate the Dockers more than the Dogs still in this season. They weren't great last year. This will be a close game of footy though, so if the Saints to win this, they'll win it by less than a goal. I'm going to go the Saints win it by 6 points. With my big call, the Saints win the game after winning less quarters. Now, the final game on the Saturday night, we've got Fremantle taking on North Melbourne at Optus Stadium. And the Dockers were really, really disappointing last week. Arguably the most disappointing of all the sides, because it was a game they were really expected to win, coming up against the Saints, who were battered, undermanned, and they didn't want to go through the corridor, want to go through the middle of the ground or take the game on. They were just chipping it backwards, trying to get all their defenders enough stats. And then when they did go inside 50, they had like over 60 of them, but they just weren't able to convert the inside 50s into goals. So it was a disappointing affair for the Dockers. Players such as Nat Fyfe, Josh Tracy were really poor, Luke Jackson. But this is a chance to respond, and you're up home against North Melbourne, which I will touch up on about. I don't think North were all that bad against the Eagles last week, apart from a bit of a patch in that last quarter, or the third quarter as well, where they were up by as much as 39 and almost lost the game. But at least it goes to show for North that they were good enough to hold on. They showed heart in the end, and a couple of standout performances. Harry Sheasel, 34 on debut, will win the Rising Star disposals, and then we got Nick Larkey kicking 6. Something about Nick Larkey and playing against West Coast, he just loves to play them for some reason. You're coming up against Freo at Optus, they're going to be better than last week, you would imagine. Although if both sides play like they did last week, this could be a closer game of footy. I think this will be a kind of a garbage game to watch, to be honest. I'm not going to be tuning into this one, obviously. Fremantle to win this game, I think, by 38 points. My big call, that no side score over 100. The Sunday games kickstart round 2 here, and we've got the Swans take on the Hawks at the SCG. Sydney proved me wrong, and proved probably a lot of other people wrong last week after I went against them and went the Suns, mainly because of the fact they match up quite well against the Swans, but also because I did think the Swans could possibly have a fall off. They didn't look like falling off at all. They don't look like doing so this season, let's be real. They were just completely dominant from the word go. I think they kicked the first 5 of the game. So yeah, it was certainly a good start to the season for the Swans to knock off a Suns side that a lot of people were raving heading into the season by over 8 goals. Yeah, really good stuff from the Swans. And then the Hawk, well, they had a good start against the Bombers. They looked like they were in the game and they could possibly win it. And then I don't know what the hell happened like after halftime. I'm not too sure when the moment just clicked for them, where the Hawks just stopped and the Bombers just ran over the top of them and played really good footy. But that moment happened around in the second quarter, third quarter, and then the Bombers just kicked goal after goal after goal, and the Hawks could not match them. They ended up losing that one by around 10 goals. So very disappointing for Hawthorn. Not just to lose the game by 10 goals, but to do it in that way after being up early on and doing it against their arch rivals, Essendon, who I don't think are going to be that great this season. I think if the round 1 games are anything to go by, this is going to be another demolition, and I am predicting that to be the case for this game. I just can't see the Hawks going anywhere near the Swans in this one. I'm going Sydney to win this game by 73 points. A big call that Sydney kicks 7 or more goals in any quarter. Now, this game is one that I'll be fairly interested in watching. Essendon take on the Gold Coast Suns at 3:20 PM at Marvel Stadium. Now, there's a thing called Gold Coast Crips. Literally anyone and everyone is heading to this game and sitting in the Gold Coast cheer squad. I'm going to be there just to see how it is. It could be for a pretty interesting vlog as well. So if you're interested, head down to the Gold Coast Cheer Squad on Sunday. Let's get all the support we can. But let's talk about the 2 games. Last week, the Bombers, they were seriously impressive after halftime against the Hawks. They were just playing with spirit, and they just play like they wanted to actually win and get better and play as a team. And they had some good standout performances. Will Setterfield, former Blue, he had 25, kicked a goal. Darcy Parish had 37. I thought Wiedemann was pretty good up forward as well. And how good was it to see Tipper back playing footy and kicking goals? So, yeah, really, really good performance from the Bombers, and there's a good reason why they're favourites in this game when they come up against the Suns outfit, who this pushed up garbage like they did last week. They were just second to the ball, didn't really want to provide the effort. To be honest with you, I didn't watch the game, but it seemed like they could have lost that game by more, the Suns. It was only 49, could have been more than that. So this is a game that the Suns certainly want to respond, and I think it's certainly a closer game on paper than what people are predicting. I'm going to go a bit of an upset call here. Supporting the Suns in this game, I'm going to go the Suns to win it by 11 points. With my big call on this one, Sam Wiedemann and Mabai Shaun combined for 7 or more goals in this game. So we head to the final game of the round. West Coast take on the Giants, 6:20 PM at Optus Stadium. This could be the most intriguing matchup of the round. You never know. This could be one of those hidden gem games and one of those weird time slots that no one's really expecting to be that great, but I feel like it could be. We got the Eagles and the Giants. Obviously, West Coast last week were pretty disappointing. They did mount a bit of a fight back, but overall, they just... yeah, I don't know, the way they were playing, I didn't really rate it. I don't think the Eagles are going to be all that great this season. I just think they were pretty slow, second to the ball for a lot of the game. Whereas the Giants, well, they were pretty happy to take 4 points away with them in the first game of the season. I think Toby Green said it himself, it was the toughest win that he ever played in, toughest win to grab, and obviously that was because of the heat. I think it was like 35 degrees there, and the fact that the Giants were down by 31 in the second to come back and fight and just get the game back on their terms after Adelaide domination in that heat is really commendable, and because of that, I'm actually going to go with the Giants. I think if the two sides play like they did last week, the Giants will get the win. I think now after watching round one, I think the Giants will be a slightly better side. They might not be as bad as they were last week. I know the Giants do have a couple of injuries that they sustained last week, but I think against the Eagles, even though it's away for them, I think it'll be a really, really close game of footy, but the Giants just break out in the last and they win the game by 13 points. The big call here, both Greens combined for 5 or more goals and 65 or more touches, the Toms and the Tobys. Alrighty everyone, well those were my round 2 tips. Let's quickly go through them. We went the Cats, we went the Ds, the Pies, the Tigers, the Saints, the Dockers, the Swans, the Suns, and the Giants. So it's going to be a pretty difficult round to tip, that's for sure. A lot of close matches that could go either way. And also with the tipping competition as well, just like I mentioned earlier, it's not any of the previous ones, it's the 2023 one. I'll probably delete the old ones, but just join the new one. Join the new one. I want to get 1,000 members soon. Leave a like and subscribe if you're new, and leave a comment down below if you want me to do a punishment and I don't get 3 or more big calls correct. Like with the previous one, leave a like on the comment as well. But yeah, anyways, cheers everyone for watching the video. We'll see you soon in the next one.